Welcome to a tea party like no other. It's Show and Tell Saturdays on Tea Time with Afternoon Social. Grab your favorite teacup. Presenting Ruth Hovsepian, speaker, author, and podcast host. Good afternoon and welcome to Tea Time with Afternoon Social. I'm Teresa Lauterbach, your host, and today is Show and Tell Saturdays. And our guest is Ruth Hovsepian. She has talked with us the last couple of days about her story of overcoming addiction and raising her 3 children. And now she's a speaker, an author, and a podcast host. And today she's going to tell us about her books, and she's got a brand new book release for June of 2023. It just came out. And so let's chat a little bit here. Hi, Ruth. How you doing?
Hi there, Teresa.
Tell us about your books that you have.
Well, the first book that came out was really happenstance. I never thought I'd be writing books. Never was something I aspired to do. If anything, I was always the one that nobody came to and said, "Don't go to Ruth for writing." My sister is an author. She's a best-selling author. My dad has written a book, but that was not for me. But then, things happened in this world the last 3 years where things changed. And I had been slated to speak at 3 different women's events in 2020. And, COVID happened, shutdowns happened. And where I live, things really shut down. We even had curfews at 9 o'clock. So it was really bad. So those were canceled, but I had also prepared for it. And one of the things I had prepared was to talk about my journey in prayer. And I had prepared something to give to the attendees of those events for them to take back and use. And it just sat there and I felt really bad about it. So anyway, I spoke to my sister and said, would you do some illustrations for my book, illustrations for this little thing that I have? And when the world opens up again, I'll use it for the next event and I'll give this out. Long story short, she looked at it. She said, "Ruth, there's a book in this, what you have. Let me send it to my agent." So her agent looked at it and said, "Definitely, I love this, but you need to turn it into more of a personal story behind this book. Put more of your story into it." So the book kind of evolved, and what came out, the book was released in May of 2022, was part memoir. So it's really my story. It's 100 Days of Prayer, the book is called, and it's a journey into deeper intimacy with God. And it's broken into 10 different sections, 10 days, making it into 100, not 10 days, 10 chapters, adding up to 100 days. And each section starts with my part of my story and part of what I have learned in my journey. And then it helps you apply that into making your prayer time very intentional. So the book is part memoir, part prayer guide, and part journal. So I walk you through how to be more intentional in your prayer, putting down names and dates and what is it the person wanted to pray for, whether. So I help you define different areas, people you pray for on a regular and daily basis, and those that you pray maybe on a weekly basis, and those that you pray for sporadically, missions or whatever it may be. Everybody has their own timetable for that prayer. But it was really more, I made prayer more intentional for myself, and I wanted to share that experience and what happens when you pray intentionally. So that was book 1 that came out in May of 2022.
Fantastic. And now what's the new book that you have just released?
Yeah, well, the second book, I couldn't get away from the subject of prayer because I really felt that there was more to it, and I wished I was able to have put that in the first book. So the second book is actually a Bible study on prayer, and again, making it a personal thing. How prayer, some of us, and including me, always thought of prayer as a very, you pray for this, you do that, but it hadn't been a personal thing for me. So the Bible study was one that I did for myself. I first of all was studying up on it. I wanted to learn more about it in my own journey. And that's what it is. It's called The Ultimate Conversation. Is That You, God? And it is a Bible study that you can go through alone, with a friend, with your partner, or in a Bible study group, and it takes you through that what is prayer? What does the Bible say about prayer, and how to include it into your own life?
That sounds like it would be a really interesting study to develop that prayer life.
Yeah.
Now, you said you're a speaker. Have you been doing speaking engagements since we've come out of the pandemic?
Yeah, well, this is something that coming out of this pandemic, I didn't know where I was going, because initially my what I was doing to make a living was taking care of other people, in the sense that I was a personal concierge. I would run personal errands for people. I would go into their homes. So everything changed, and people now started to work from home, and they really didn't need it. So I had to revamp and rethink. And I said to God, you know what? I don't know where this is going, especially with my first book coming out. And then I started to get into this amazing community online of writers, of authors and speakers. And I realized that I needed to share my story, my journey, through addiction and the recovery process of it. So I use my story to bring to women hope, to identify this void that they have in their lives. So this is what I'm speaking about right now, identifying this void, understanding what that void is, and filling that void. And really, at the end of the day, that void isn't taken away when you take it to the Lord. He fills the void. And that's what I want to bring across to the women I speak to, is you're not alone. We all have that void that we can fill with God if we allow Him to. And I use my own experiences of trying to fill the void through sharing with these women.
Mm-hmm. So do you mainly speak to at churches, or do you have your own platform? Or
Well, I have my podcast, which I use and I share continually, or within my ministry. I think future books you'll see more of that, because I really believe I have a message I need to get out, and this is where the Lord is leading me. I'll speak at events, whether it's small groups of women or large groups of women. To me, it doesn't matter. It's not a status thing. It's really giving people the understanding that there's hope in Christ, and that we can all be transformed, and there's a story of redemption out there for every single one of us. So, if you have a group of 10 women, I'll come and speak. If you have a large event, of 1,000 women or more, I'll be there to share what the Lord is leading me to share, helping women leave with something, with hope, with joy.
Fabulous. So now that you've finished your second book, do you have a third one on the...
Actually, I snuck a third one in there between us talking for me to come on here and actually getting on here. And that is, the third book is actually a companion to the first one. And it's really more just the journal part of it, because I had a couple of people say to me, Ruth, can I just print it out? Can I do this? Because I give a lot of lists that you can use, blank lists, and a journaling part. And I said, okay, well, if you want, I'll come out with another one. So I came out with another one, and it's just the addition is really a prayer journal. So that you can use it as a companion to the book, or just take it and continue having an intentional place to write and to record your prayer or who you're praying for, and have a record. I like looking back. and seeing who I've prayed for and the outcomes of those prayers. It's a great way of journaling that.
Right. And all of your books are found on Amazon and through your
Yes.
website. Okay.
Yep, exactly.
And I will again put all those links in the comments. And is there anything more that you have on your plate that you'd like to share with our audience that, besides being?
Well, I've loved being on other people's podcasts, and I've really loved writing. So I have almost a year and a half worth of devotions that I'm going through, and hoping to release over the next year of devotions, and see what happens. And I don't know, wherever the Lord takes me, that this is who I am right now. I don't know where I'm going or what I'm doing. Every day is a new experience, and I'm loving it. I love meeting people like you, Teresa, and sharing and getting to know people and widening my world in a different way.
I understand exactly, because it's getting to meet wonderful people like you and across the world and getting your message out there. It's just, unfathomable what may happen next week.
Amen to that. If we're open to it, if we allow God, I say, I've always been a goal-oriented person. This is the first time in my life that I don't see the goalposts. I know where I'm headed. I know the direction of the goalpost. I just don't know how I'm getting there or when I'm getting there. I really have said, Lord, I don't know anymore, because I've messed up my life choices in the past. Right now, I'm just saying, Lord, take it. Use me as you see fit. And
And well, that's how I've actually restarted it. I've done businesses in the past, and at the end of 2020, I said, you just have to do something. And I had a workbook on the back burner for years. I said, okay, with that, just finish it and see where that leads. Well, that led to, you got to have some place to sell that. You got to get the word out. And so one step after another led me into a podcast, led me into other things. So I understand exactly what you're talking about. You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Where, like you said, you wanted to, your book of prayers came out because you were doing a speaking engagement. You didn't know you were going to be an author, did you?
No, never.
Just never dawned on you. And we talked a little bit about her writing her memoir, and let's encourage Ruth today to try to put some notes aside and see if that might come out.
Yeah, maybe that's the starting point, taking notes.
Putting a few little goals down, but it's like reaching for the stars. You never quite get there, but you're always reaching.
That's right.
So, well, thank you again for being on here with Show and Tell Saturdays, and again, go back and see her other videos from the last 2 days. And if you want to know more about her podcast, that was yesterday at Wednesday Fridays, and her story was on Triumphant Thursdays. So thank you again, Ruth, for joining us here on Tea Time with Afternoon Social. It was great to have you as a guest this week, and hopefully we'll hear more from you in the future. So
thank you, Teresa. It's been a blast.
Thank you again. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.